Here's a question I get asked all the time. How did you know that you were transgender? And when did you know? And what was it like? What was it like growing up transgender? Well, here's the story. So I was around 5 years old, which is as far back as I can remember. And you might think that's really young, but you think about what you knew when you were 5 years old, what you knew for sure when you were 5 years old. And for me, what I knew for sure is that I was going to be a woman. And if you talk to anyone, like a cousin of mine or a sister or anybody, and even as hard as it might be for them to admit, even an aunt or whoever, that I for sure was going to be a woman. I was going to be an entertainer and I was going to be a woman. Many of you have heard me say before in interviews that I used to run around with a flashlight in my hand, pretending that it was a microphone, and I used to have a pillowcase on my head, pretending it was long hair, because I was singing Whitney Houston songs, and I was, but more than just being an entertainer, I knew for sure that I was going to be a woman. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I don't know when it was going to happen. I didn't even know what the word was for it. I am the oldest, and I was the only boy of 4. And my sisters are all younger than me, and they are 3 of them, and they are very womanly women. And they developed very early. My sisters at the ages of like 13 looked like they were in their 20s. And when I started to develop a different way, it was very devastating to me. And I didn't understand why this was happening, because I just knew that I was going to be a girl. But let me take you back, because I skipped a little bit. So I was, from the moment that I was, could move about the world and had a personality, it was very clear that I was very effeminate. And I not only used to run around with that pillowcase on my head and the microphone singing Whitney Houston songs, but I also was very girly. I used to walk very girly and act very girly and just kind of but because I was in the South and because my family is very religious, that was not allowed. And there was not going to be anybody in the house that was going to be acting like they were not supposed to be acting, basically. And so to kind of, I think subconsciously, I don't even know if they were conscious of it. Maybe they were. I've never really asked them, but I was given every Matchbox car, every fire truck, every baseball bat, basketball, every boy toy that they could find to give me. That's what I was given. And what did I want to play with? I wanted to play with Barbies. And it's crazy that I say this all the time. I wanted to play with Barbies so much that I grew up and became a Barbie, and now I collect Barbies that look like me. And but that's the reason I wanted to play with Barbies all the time. So I would sneak and play with my sister's Barbie dolls or their tea sets or whatever, all the girly toys. I would play with them, and if I were caught playing with those toys, then I would get scolded or worse. And it was always like, stop playing your sister's hair, stop acting like a girl, stop playing with that doll, you better not be touching that doll, you better not, So my sisters were very kind to me as a kid, and they still are, but they were, if they heard anybody coming, they'd be like, put it back, put the doll down. And I would pick up a toy that was, boyish, and then someone would come in the room and just be like, were you playing with that doll? And I was just like, no, I wasn't playing with the doll. And it was, you got to understand, something like that sounds small. And so there might be people that say, well, I would never let my kid, no matter how I feel about being trans or being gay or whatever, play with a doll. But something as small as that, just, from that day, from that small on, led me to believe that what I was not, right. As simple as playing with a doll. Because I will tell you, not everybody that plays with a doll wants to be a girl or is gay. That is a very antiquated way of thinking. But I really just knew that I was a girl. I could just feel it. I didn't know what the correct word was for it, and I was always taught the derogatory words. And back then, you know, I guess when you know better, you do better. But back then, people didn't really know better, and they would say, you know, words that I guess basically were demeaning, and just kind of thought like, you know, do you really want to become that? Because this is what we're going to think of you. And so, you know, all throughout school, I would go to school and I get teased because there was nothing masculine about me, and I was just not conforming to the way that everybody else was. And I tried to at times, tried to like assimilate, tried to be like very like, you know, not as girly, but it shined through, whether it was in the way that I moved or just the way that I talked or the things that I was interested in. And it was very hard. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, and I'm not gonna get emotional on this video, but it was very hard. And I look back at my childhood now, and I don't have very pleasant memories of my childhood. And there probably were a lot of things that happened that were great. There were times that happened were great, but they were so overshadowed for me by the way that I was treated. And I just had this idea in my head that what I was wrong. And I couldn't shake it. I tried. I used to pray to God. I used to pray and pray and pray. Why am I like this? Why can I not shake it? Why does this feel so innate to me? And I'm being taught that this is wrong. And I just couldn't understand, you know, why I was so different. And I had no one really to look up to, because you got to remember, I started my transition a lot later in life, but earlier than most people now, because we're talking, you know, 38 years ago. I'm 38 years old. So, you know, for me to have transitioned 15 years ago, but then also grow up a transgender kid before, it was really hard. And so I, you know, was forced to like, you know, if I wanted to hang out with all the girls, I was forced to go like hang out with the boys, and then I didn't identify with them, and it was a very foreign concept to me. Wasn't interested in anything they were interested in. They tried to include me, but then I was kind of like, I felt awkward all the time, and it just was not working out. And so I just sort of became what my cousin now refers to me as, like, you were always the girl cousin. Like, you were always, like, I just always thought of you as the girl cousin. No matter what you were, I just always thought of that. And it's true. Anybody that talks to you now will say, yeah, Riley was always Riley. Riley was always a girl. Like, always, no matter, like, there's no denying that. It was not a surprise to anyone in my family when they heard that I was transitioning, that I was going to transition. They might not have liked it, or they might not have understood it, but they're like, yeah, we kind of figured this is the way that she was going to be. But it was constantly ingrained in me. Stop worrying, like, I would be particular about my hair, and I always had like really curly hair, and you know, it was always like, stop focusing on your hair, and stop, you know, trying to walk like that. Like, I literally just had to sit still, like, stop crossing your legs. Every single thing was scrutinized, and so much so that I just knew that what I was wrong. In my head, like, it was so ingrained in me. And I cannot tell you what it feels like to have something ingrained in you that feels innate, but like people are trying to literally beat it out of you, or figuratively beat it out of you. Like, you just feel like, this is who I am, and this is how I am, and I can't help it. But then somebody tried to, like, it would be almost the equivalent of somebody trying to beat the black out of me. Like, that's just like this, that is something to me that I'm just, I am, and I can't change that. So around like being like, you know, going through puberty, and my sister started to develop, and then I would develop in a different way, or people in my classrooms were developing as women and I wasn't, because in my head I just thought, oh, I'll naturally just progress into a woman. No, I didn't even know the word was transition, you guys, like or transgender. I had no clue. And the only thing that was similar to what I was, the closest thing to me, was like seeing like either RuPaul, which I wasn't a drag queen, so it was a guy that dressed up like a girl, or watching Maury Povich or Jerry Springer, and that was definitely not a representation of what I was trying to be. And I wasn't allowed, like, even if I would sneak and try to watch things like that, it was like, no, turn it off, you know. And I would get in trouble, and then I would have like cousins or some like boy cousins that would tell on me for watching or something that was thought of as girly, or, you know, it was just a really different time. We're talking the 80s and the 90s, guys. So it was very different. And if you're under the age of like 20 or like around that age, you might understand that the world used to be this way, but that's really just the way that the world was. And we've gotten a lot better. I will tell you, we've gotten a lot better. And I wish I had Pose. You know, you've heard me talk about in other videos. I wish that I had Pose to watch, and that would have been like so great for me, you know. But going to high school, the first few years of high school, I felt awkward and I was very shy and very kind of, you know, not like everybody else. And then I would have people come up to me and be like, "Are you a boy or a girl?" Because I always had very feminine features. I was very small, very soft, but, you know, like shorter hair, but people were still like, "Are you a boy or girl?" And I thought, like, are they being mean? But there were people that really just didn't know, you know? And it was just kind of crazy to me. And then like the last 2 years of high school, I became a little more popular and like had more friends. And I think there are people, I wasn't out. Like I didn't, you know, tell people that I was trans or gay or anything like that. But I think like they kind of knew. And so all the girls kind of took me under their wings. Even some of the guys who were like football jocks started being nice to me and kind of opening doors for me. There was this one guy who opened doors for me and was just kind of like treated me like the girl. Some people that didn't understand it still were kind of mean to me. But for the most part, everybody was really nice. And it's so crazy because I went to my 10-year reunion and everyone was just showered me with so much love and was so nice and so kind and was just like, "Oh, that old person, like that's out the door. You're Riley now. We support you. We love you no matter what. You're one of us, you know." And so I love that. And I still have that support. You know, it's been 20 years since I was in high school, but you know, some of my girlfriends from high school came to see my show recently, and that was great. But you know, in high school, it was still very different because I couldn't tell anybody, but people just kind of guessed. And that was very hard for me. But the silver lining is, you know, I moved to DC and I started meeting people that were just like me, you know, right out of high school, moved to DC, and it was just like, wow, that's what I am. And there's a word for it. It's transgender. Interesting. That's what I've been all along. I didn't know what the word was. And it's okay. And there's other girls like you, and it's not wrong. That's just who you are. You're different. And all those years that you thought that like you know, couldn't understand and would pray to God, like, why am I different? Like, why? Like, I know God doesn't make mistakes. And the truth is, God didn't make a mistake. I was exactly who I was supposed to be. And everything that I went through was all worth it. It was supposed to happen simply because that was just a part of my journey. And it makes me appreciate it so much more. And I'm so happy to literally like be able to stand up and say to you guys, I'm a transgender woman. I'm a proud transgender woman. And, you know, my hat goes off to all those people, all those kids who are growing up right now and being so brave and living in their truth and growing up in a society where we have representation and where we have people to look up to, and you can, you know, it's not thought of as taboo, and you can, there's resources out there, or, you know, group chats and group, you know, places that you can go on Facebook and Instagram and talk to people. And, you know, I get DMs from people all the time that are just transitioning or just starting out, and they have so many questions for me, and I welcome those questions to you guys, so keep them coming. I really appreciate it, and I will try to help in any way that I can. It is extremely important for me to be to someone what no one was for me. And, you know, I honestly still I don't blame anybody for even the way they treated me growing up, because it was a different time and they didn't know, and it was a part of my growth. I am thankful for the person that I am today because of that. And I thank all of you for supporting me, you know, whether it be coming to my shows or even on Instagram or even here now on YouTube. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It is not in vain. And, you know, I just wanted to come on and tell you guys my story of what it was like, just in a nutshell. Maybe I'll go into depth about it. You know, if you have any more questions about it, like I said, I constantly want to talk about this with you guys, because the more we talk about it, the more visible it becomes, the less taboo it becomes, you know. Yeah, if you have questions and comments, comment below, and make sure you like this video and pass it along to anybody whom you might know that might be questioning being transgender or starting out, or, you know, wanting to understand what being transgender is or what it's like. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. I love you.